My former husband, who betrayed me with my own sister, unexpectedly reached out via email after 6 long years. I, 33F, first encountered Dan, 40M, nearly 15 years ago during a celebration of my 18th birthday at a quaint restaurant. His charm, maturity, and kindness made me feel cherished and valued in ways I'd never known. My upbringing in a tumultuous household, where my parents were often at odds and my father would sometimes vanish for months at a time, had left a void in me. After my father passed away when my sister Abby, 25F, was born, my mother seemed to favor Abby. Although she didn't neglect me, always providing for me as best as she could, there was always a palpable sense of something missing in my life. Dan's entrance into my world filled that void. He was supportive, caring, and generous, often showering me with gifts and whisking me away on long drives. When we married after 4 years of dating, I felt complete. I was eager to start a family, but Dan encouraged me to pursue my master's degree and build a stable career first, believing it was important to be financially secure before having children. He was the epitome of the perfect partner, until 5 years into our marriage when I discovered his affair with Abby. His supposed week-long trip out of town turned out to be a lie. He had stayed in town, booking a hotel room for his trysts with Abby, a betrayal that had been ongoing for 6 months. The devastation was overwhelming. Abby and I had always been close, so her betrayal cut deeply. After confronting Dan, he coldly confessed that he no longer loved me, that I had changed, and that he felt neglected. Amid this turmoil, I discovered I was pregnant, but the stress caused me to miscarry. Dan didn't even visit me in the hospital. Instead, he was off enjoying a weekend getaway with Abby. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. Abby was always overly affectionate with Dan, and he often looked at her in ways that now seemed disturbingly clear. My mother, predictably, sided with Abby and urged me to make peace with the situation. I felt utterly alone, having lost my child, my husband, and my family. I even contemplated ending my life, but my best friend Tina, my savior, stepped in and offered me a lifeline. She was moving to another state and invited me to join her, which I did. By then, I was already divorced and desperate to escape the small town, where I would inevitably run into my ex-husband and sister. It took time to adjust to my new life, but the kindness of people in my new home helped me heal. I still struggle with trust issues, but a year after moving, I met Tony, 32M, my now husband. Initially, I was guarded, but Tony proved himself to be trustworthy and loving. His parents were welcoming and generous, and for the first time, I felt like I belonged to a family that genuinely cared for me. Tony and I married a year ago, and I am now pregnant with our first child. Yesterday, out of the blue, I received an email from Dan, which dredged up all those painful memories. He wrote that he missed me, that he tried to find me but couldn't. He's miserable with Abby, who he describes as foolish and uncaring. Unlike me, she doesn't bake him cakes or celebrate his birthdays. Instead, she barely acknowledges them with a text. She's also been unfaithful to him multiple times, even with his cousin. Dan claimed that Abby doesn't respect him, often spending time at bars with her friends, and that our mother does nothing to stop her. He said he plans to file for divorce, but has been thinking about me a lot lately. He even suggested that we could rekindle our relationship and become a family again. Since I have no social media presence aside from a private Instagram account, Dan probably doesn't know that I'm married and expecting a baby. I'm torn between pity and amusement at how his once green grass has withered and turned brown. UPDAT. I want to thank everyone who reached out with messages of support. I've decided to respond to Dan's email once and for all. Here's what I wrote. Dan, I'm sorry to hear that you're suffering, but there's no chance we'll ever be together again. There was a time when I might have taken you back, but that version of me died the day I miscarried our child while you were off with my sister. I called you, but you never answered. I'm now married to a wonderful man who loves and cherishes me, and I'm expecting our first child. I'm beginning a new chapter of my life with someone I love deeply, so please, do not contact me again. You made your choice when you chose my barely legal sister over me. I don't care if she cheats on you or doesn't respect you. You don't deserve loyalty or respect anyway. I've left my old life behind, and it would be best for you to do the same and reflect on yourself. You're just a deeply insecure man who thought having a young woman by your side would make you feel better. Goodbye. UPDT2, March 3. Many of you asked about Dan's response. Well, he replied within an hour, saying he was foolish to think I would wait for him, and that he would always wait for me, because, in his words, I would always be his baby doll. I cringed when I read that. He used to call me that, but now it feels repulsive. I also receive emails from my mother and sister. My mother congratulated me on my pregnancy and expressed her excitement about becoming a grandmother, while my sister said she was looking forward to being the cool aunt. I can't believe these people. They've conveniently forgotten how they treated me when I needed them most, betraying me in the worst way possible. I cried for a long time after reading their messages. Some of you pointed out that it seems like both my sister and I were groomed by Dan, and I feel so foolish for not seeing it sooner. I know I shouldn't be angry at my sister, but she was old enough to know that having an affair with her sister's husband was wrong. I've blocked all of them now. I'm 5 months pregnant, and I don't need any more stress in my life. Thankfully, my husband was there to comfort me when I broke down. He even took me out for ice cream to cheer me up. I hope I can move past this. I've had some time to cool down, so I think I can provide a more detailed update. After sending my email to Dan, he replied with what I mentioned in Update 2. A few hours later, I receive emails from my mother and sister on an old email address that I rarely use now. I'm not sure how they found out about my pregnancy, as I've been keeping a low profile. I haven't posted any baby bump pictures or made any announcements on social media. The whole situation just scared me. I broke down crying on the spot. Luckily, my husband Tony was around. He held me and helped me calm down. He knows everything about my past. I've never hidden anything from him. I was a little scared that my mom and sister might try to find me, but Tony reassured me that we were hundreds of miles away from them. We live on the opposite side of the country. He even joked that we could move to another country if we had to. Someone suggested that I alert the daycare about my mom and sister, just in case they tried to take my baby. But we're not planning to put her in daycare. Even though I'm currently working, I've decided to quit my job and focus on raising our baby and healing from childbirth. I have a good amount of savings, so this is entirely my decision. I'll go back to work when our little princess is a bit older. My in-laws are amazing people, and they live nearby. They've offered to help with the baby, which I appreciate. And don't worry, I have a solid support system in place. Tina and her wife, Jenny, have practically adopted me. They're wonderful people and have always been there for me. I don't know what the future holds, but at least I'm surrounded by good people, something I never had growing up. Now, I'm going to enjoy being pampered by my husband. If anything major happens, I'll keep you all updated. But for now, my ex, sister, and mother are all blocked, and I'm focusing on my new life. Since I blocked my ex-husband, sister, and mother, I've been able to regain a sense of peace that I hadn't felt in years. It's as if a heavy weight has been lifted off my shoulders, and I can finally breathe freely. Tony has been my rock through all of this. He's gone above and beyond to make sure I feel safe and loved, and he's constantly reminding me that we're building a beautiful life together, one that has nothing to do with the pain of my past. As I focus on the arrival of our baby, I'm filled with a mix of excitement and nerves. Every time I feel her kick, it's a reminder that this little life is a new beginning for us, a fresh chapter filled with hope and love. We've been busy preparing the nursery, picking out soft pastel colors, and carefully choosing the furniture. Tony jokes that I'm nesting because I'm so particular about every little detail, but I think he's just as excited as I am. He's always talking to my belly, telling our daughter how much he loves her and how he can't wait to meet her. Seeing the way he already dotes on her makes me fall even more in love with him. The support from Tina, Jenny, and Tony's parents has also been a blessing. Tina and Jenny have been like sisters to me, in the truest sense of the word. They've been by my side through thick and thin, always ready to lend an ear or offer advice. They've even started planning a small, intimate baby shower for me, which I'm really looking forward to. It's going to be just us and a few close friends, people who genuinely care about me and want to celebrate this new life we're bringing into the world. As for Tony's parents, I couldn't have asked for better in-laws. They welcomed me into their family with open arms, treating me like their own daughter. Tony's mom has been especially wonderful, sharing stories about when Tony was a baby and giving me all sorts of helpful tips for when our little one arrives. It feels like I'd finally found the family I always longed for, and I'm determined to protect this new life we're building from the negativity of my past. Even though I've blocked my ex, sister, and mother, I still occasionally feel the sting of their betrayal. It's not something that just goes away overnight, but with time, I've started to let go of the anger and sadness. I've realized that holding on to those feelings only gives them power over me, and I refuse to let them control my happiness any longer. My focus now is on the future, on being the best mother I can be and creating a loving, supportive home for my daughter. Tony and I have had many long talks about how we want to raise our child, and we're both committed to breaking the cycle of dysfunction that plagued my own upbringing. We want to raise her in an environment filled with love, respect, and open communication. We've even started reading parenting books together, discussing how we can support each other as partners and parents. It feels good to be proactive, to plan, and to dream about the kind of life we want to provide for our daughter. As my due date approaches, I find myself growing more reflective. I think about the journey that brought me here, the pain and the heartache, but also the growth and the healing. I've learned so much about myself over the past few years, and while the road was incredibly difficult, I'm proud of the person I've become. I'm stronger, wiser, and more resilient than I ever thought possible. And now, as I prepare to bring new life into this world, I'm filled with a sense of purpose and optimism. No matter what challenges lie ahead, I know I'm not facing them alone. I have Tony by my side, a strong support system, and a renewed sense of self-worth. I'm ready to embrace this next chapter with open arms, leaving the past behind and focusing on the beautiful future that awaits us. And as for Dan, Abby, and my mother, they're part of a chapter that's been closed. I don't need them, and I don't want them in my life. I wish them no ill will, but they no longer have a place in my story. My story is now about love, healing, and new beginnings. And it's a story that's just beginning. As I settle into this new chapter, my thoughts occasionally drift back to the woman I used to be. The one who believed in fairy tales, who trusted too easily, who was shattered by betrayal. But now, I view her with compassion rather than pity. She was doing the best she could with what she knew, and it was her resilience that carried me to where I am today. I no longer see myself as broken or damaged. Instead, I recognize the strength it took to rebuild my life from the ashes of my past. The bond between Tony and me has deepened even further as we prepare for our daughter's arrival. Every day, I'm reminded of how fortunate I am to have found a partner who truly understands me and who stands by me without question. We've created a sanctuary in our home, a place where love is abundant, where laughter fills the rooms, and where our daughter will grow up knowing she is cherished beyond measure. Tony has been incredibly hands-on throughout my pregnancy. From late-night cravings to rubbing my feet when they're swollen, he's been there every step of the way. He's even attended every prenatal appointment, asking the doctor questions and making sure we're both well taken care of. His excitement is palpable. Every time he sees a baby store, he wants to stop and browse, and he's already picked out a dozen little outfits for our daughter. We've talked a lot about the kind of parents we want to be. We agree on the importance of patience, kindness, and respect in our parenting approach. Tony often talks about wanting to be the kind of father who's always there for his daughter, the way he wishes his own father had been for him. It's something we're both committed to, breaking the cycles of our pasts and creating a nurturing environment for our children. In quiet moments, I sometimes imagine what life will be like when our daughter arrives. I picture her first smile, her first steps, and the countless milestones that will shape her journey. I think about the lessons we'll teach her, the values we'll instill, and the unconditional love we'll give her every day. It fills me with a profound sense of purpose, a purpose that goes beyond anything I've ever known. Despite the joy and anticipation, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have fears. There are moments when the old doubts creep in when I wonder if I'm truly ready for this new role. But then I remember everything I've overcome, and I remind myself that I'm stronger than I often give myself credit for. Tony is always there to reassure me, to remind me that we're in this together and that we'll face whatever comes our way as a team. As my pregnancy progresses, I've started to focus more on self-care, both physically and mentally. I've learned that taking care of myself isn't selfish. It's necessary for me to be the best mother and partner I can be. I've been practicing mindfulness, taking long walks, and allowing myself to rest when I need to. It's a far cry from the self-sacrificing person I used to be, but I've come to realize that I can't pour from an empty cup. Tina and Jenny continue to be a constant source of support. They've been my sounding board for all the emotions that have surfaced during this pregnancy, from the highs to the lows. We've shared countless conversations about motherhood, and they've given me the space to express my fears without judgment. They're always reminding me that it's okay to feel vulnerable, that it's part of the journey. As I look forward to the future, I'm filled with hope. There's a sense of peace that comes with knowing that I've taken control of my life, that I've chosen to surround myself with people who uplift me rather than tear me down. I know there will be challenges ahead. Life is never without them, but I'm confident that I can handle whatever comes my way. The birth of our daughter will mark the beginning of a new era in my life. It will be a time of learning, of growth, and of deep, unconditional love. And I'm ready for it. I'm ready to embrace the sleepless nights, the endless diaper changes, and all the beautiful moments in between. I'm ready to be a mother. As for my past, it's something I'll never forget, but it no longer defines me. I've reclaimed my story, and I'm writing it on my own terms. With Tony by my side and our daughter on the way, I know that the best is yet to come. My heart is full, and my soul is at peace. This is the life I've fought for, the life I deserve. And now, as I stand on the threshold of motherhood, I'm filled with gratitude for all that I've endured, because it led me here, to a place of love, happiness, and hope for the future.